Yesterday was YomHaShoah, which is the Holocaust Memorial Day, and went to a very lovely gathering at the house of a liberal rabbi in North London, and we heard a personal story from the daughter of a survivor. It was very lovely, very charming. It was very nice. My daughter was there. She is in that rabbi's congregation. And it was nice. It was lovely. It was to hear her saying the Kaddish for members of our family who perished in the conflagration. But the thing that I was thinking about afterwards was, what should we make of it? What should we make of the Holocaust as Jews? What should we make of it among ourselves? But what should we also make it? What should we also ask Gentiles to make of it? And one thing I think that we shouldn't do is over memorialize it. I kind of feel that, particularly teaching it as part of as a module, as a history module to 14 and 15-year-olds, to, as it were, young adolescents, is particularly or potentially counterproductive, in that they don't really have the maturity or the context to absorb something kind of that big and that complicated. And I think you run the risk, really, of putting people off, and they deflect their inability to cope with the emotions that it requires by denying that it happened, or that it wasn't as bad as they make out, or that we're being put upon by the Jewish conspiracy, or worst of all, I guess, that they deserved it. Which, so I think we should be much more careful about the way that we teach it and memorialize it. I sort of feel, do we really want to turn one of the most beautiful and peaceful parks in central London into a Holocaust memorial, and which is, I think, Victoria Gardens, next to the Houses of Parliament. There's a proposal to do that, and I think, no, don't do that. That's just not the right way. That's not the right thing to do at all. It's too much. It's just too much. We need to sort of be more moderate about it, and have more of a sense of decency and respect, and not try and turn it into a performance, and be careful about how we teach it. The other thing that occurs to me, though, is that one response, the main response, the biggest, the most particular response to the Holocaust among Jews has been Zionism. Every Jew left over in Europe in the displaced people's camps, wanted to come to Palestine. No one wanted to go back to Poland. No one wanted to go back to Germany. The Germans didn't want them. The Poles didn't want them. The Palestinians didn't want them. But the Americans didn't want them. The British didn't want them. Nobody wanted them, and so they had to go. But they had to go somewhere. They couldn't just stay in the concentration camps. So one way or another, most of them, or many of them, made their way to Palestine, and Zionism became fundamental in many ways to Jewish culture, both in Israel, obviously, but also in the diaspora. And you'd have a very small minority of Jews who are not Zionist, or who are not sympathetic to Zionism. But Zionism has now become this figure of virulent hatred across the entire political spectrum. You have, on the right, you have Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, Tucker Carlson. That was a mistake. That was a genuine. That was a genuine mistake. It was not a It was a Freudian slip. It was a genuine mistake. Who just use anti-Zionism as a lever into anti-Semitism, and then into racism more generally. And then on the left, you have Jeremy Corbyn, Bernie Sanders, who will deny till they're blue in the face that they're racist, and I think I take them at their word. I don't think they are racist, but they are virulently anti-Zionist, and are perfectly happy to see organisations such as Hamas or the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, really called for the destruction of Israel. So Zionism has become deeply problematic. And just another point on that is you take the Green Party, who are now want to publicly and officially and formally equate Zionism with racism. And they're doing that not because they want to be seen as more radical. They're doing it because they think that will leap them into the mainstream of UK politics. And as I say, wherever you sit wherever you are as a Jew, wherever you are on your attitude to Zionism, it's difficult to want to have to say, well, 90% of the Jewish population or 80% of the Jewish population are racist. I mean, I'm the most reluctant of any Zionist that's ever lived. I'm not, I've always wanted to support the diaspora and life in the diaspora and the rights of the diaspora and not to see Israel as being a solution to to racism or anti-Semitism in the diaspora. But at the same time, it would be very difficult for me to say yes, Zionism is equal to racism. So what? And I've not got the answer here. I'm just really trying to figure out what the I'm trying to figure out what the answer is. I've just got the question. I've just got the question. How do you? Does anti-Zionism, sort of slightly spinning off a little bit here, but how much does this hatred of Zionism and the allowance of and the extent to which it allows to cut off the Jews of the diaspora, how does that really going to bring peace to the Middle East? I mean, is it really? Is that really going to create prosperity and peace and decency and respect for the Palestinians? I mean, I'm not really sure that it does really. I sort of feel that there has to be Hamas, the likes of Hamas, the likes of the IRGC, the likes of Hezbollah. They're not looking for peace. They're looking to destroy Israel. And if you support those organizations and wave their flags at protests and so on, then that is what you're supporting. You're supporting the destruction of Israel and the ethnic cleansing of 7 million people who actually genuinely have absolutely nowhere else to go. But it all comes back, I think, to our approach to, our attitude to, our understanding of the Holocaust and what its significance is in the contemporary world, in the 2020s and looking ahead into the 2030s. What do we want to make of the Jewish question? We can't send them all back to Poland. Can't send them all back to Germany. They don't come from Poland. They don't come from Germany. I don't come from Germany. My family never set foot in Germany, but we weren't Germans. We weren't Poles. 2/5 of the population of Israel are not have no European ancestry, whatever. So it's not a simple question, but I kind of feel that anger and hatred and equality and resort to very strong language and extreme opinions is not a good solution.